Continuing from the previous episode 1700. In the Wild Ghost Desert, the sand and fog are ruthless, and it is this kind of windless sand that protects the entire Wild Ghost Desert. Ordinary human powerhouses or native ghosts in the ghost world, if they are blown away by it for a long time, I'm afraid they will be blown away. The body and even the soul body will be shaken by it, causing some immeasurable losses. The ghost weather here. Xiaoyan and the two walked quietly on the Wild Ghost Desert, but there is only an endless golden desert here, and there is nothing else, plus the extremely dry temperature, disturbing. Don't look at it, just follow me. After blinking, Yuer's beautiful eyes glanced around, just saw Xiaoyan want to take out the parchment map to check, and hurriedly said, "Even if I carry enough recovery medicine pills, it's not the way to go on like this for a long time." Xiaoyan reluctantly put down the things in his hand and said. Looking around, on the golden desert, a gust of wind roared, and the surface of the desert, because of the extremely high temperature, will occasionally appear like a mirage, and if you are not careful, you will be trapped in it. Is overwhelming. I remember that in the West Temple, every once in a while, there will be some guards who are responsible for paying tribute to some temple items. If you count the time, it should be almost the same. Seeing Xiaoyan's puzzled look, Yuer said, "Follow me for a while, plus the disguised breath of the two of us, it must be very easy to mix in." After a while, Yuer said. As soon as the voice fell, the two were also hidden in the desert. Not far from Xiaoyan and the others, it was also in a desert area. Hurry up, these things are requested by the master of the West Temple. If the time is delayed, you should know the consequences. Above the desert area, dozens of people emerged, and on their bodies, they were all portrayed. A dark red font, West, said the man in the first place. Captain, there is still a lot of time before the date designated by the West Hall Master. Don't worry, after all, the ghost weather in this desert is not so easy. That's right. Besides, it's been an eventful season recently. Even if we delay the time, I'm afraid these big men won't spend too much time with us. Some figures in the back said intermittently. Hey, you little brats. The first man on horseback shrugged and smiled. This is a caravan composed of dozens of people, and all 10 people are riding white horses and wearing red robes. The soul beasts used to ride and release materials. A carload of heavily protected materials, plus a sedan chair, appeared in the center of the crowd. Help me. At the same time, everyone only heard a sharp voice, and suddenly 2 strange black shadows surged rapidly. Looking at this battle, I'm afraid it was to guard against some guy. Whoa! What's going on? At this moment, a man with a rather soft complexion in the caravan jumped up, looked at the first man, and then shot directly at the 2 black shadows. Save! Help! Erdao Shadow couldn't help but muttered as he watched the caravan take action. Susu, the two of you, quickly explain the location of the West Temple, otherwise. Another dark shadow snorted coldly. The 2 shadows are naturally Xiaoyan and Yuer. As for the 2 who pretended to attack Xiaoyan, it was Xiaoyan's soul avatar. Xiaoyan, who had mastered many means, disguised Xiaolei and instantly formed. It is obviously extremely easy to deceive this caravan with the breath of a ghost world powerhouse. Your Excellency is doing this, but you are declaring war on our 4 major temples. Seeing this scene, the caravan captain dismounted and walked over to Xiaoyan and the 2 of them slightly, and there was a rare trace of blue fighting spirit flowing around him. Wind attribute, and also a 6-star fighting immortal with the wind element. Xiaoyan said in surprise. Captain, it's confirmed. Both of them are under the 3rd Regiment of the West God Temple. After Shunshi, the man who had just helped Xiaoyan said to the captain. Xiaoyan didn't take this kind of division into his heart either, but luckily you were new and made preparations in advance. Feng Tu Sanbi. Without any words, the caravan captain's palm changed, and bursts of blue hurricanes emerged directly from the body, and immediately roared away at Xiaolei, who was disguised as a growing ghost. I sue, so ruthless? Xiaoyan couldn't help roaring when he noticed such a tyrannical blow from the caravan captain. Xiaolei's strength is indeed tyrannical, but in the face of the full strength of a 6-star Do Xian powerhouse, he can only be at a disadvantage, and once Xiaolei is injured, Xiaoyan will not be much better. Wang buzzing. Xiaolei didn't hesitate too much, his figure jumped, and he ran away from here as if he was running away. Fortunately, the caravan captain and the others didn't chase after them. After a while, After they relaxed their vigilance, they would be able to escape. Back to Xiao Yan's body. Thank you all. Seeing that the perpetrators were temporarily repelled, Xiao Yan and the two's hidden auras were looming and weak. The two adults are very polite. But I am a little puzzled. The strength of the guy just now is not strong, the two. The caravan captain turned his eyes to the two and asked. Although the West Temple is the weakest of the 4 temples, the guards in the West Temple are also extremely powerful. In the West Temple, there are 3 major legions, and the 3 major legions are all strong among the strong. My lord, I'm ashamed to say that this time I was sent to perform a mission by the commander, but for some reason, when I just left the temple and went outside, I was chased and killed. Yu-Er was afraid. Xiao Yan would break his plan and hurriedly said. As the direct disciple of the Dean of the Soul Academy, Yu-Er not only obtained what he had learned all his life, but also knew very well some news about the 4 major temples. So that's the case. Hearing Yu-Er say this, the doubts in the caravan captain's heart slowly disappeared. After all, the two had special identities, and they didn't dare to deal with it, because the soldiers in the 4 temples were the entire Li Hun. The real powerhouse in the domain. Since the 2 of you are also soldiers of the West God's Temple, let's go back with us this time, just in time for us to deliver some supplies. Seeing the 2 of them, the caravan captain said, No, our military life is limited. Cough cough cough. Xiao Yan couldn't help but refuse when he heard the caravan captain say this. Just because the breath in his body was floating, he coughed. Hey, the 2 adults don't have to refuse. In a few days, we will be able to enter the West Shrine. In the past few days, I hope that the 2 adults will lead the way and let us avoid some dangerous areas in the wild and ghostly desert. The caravan captain said at Btth2. If that's the case, then it's better to be respectful than to obey. Yu-Er said softly. At this time, Xiao Yan and the others mixed into the caravan and headed towards the West Temple. Continuing from the previous episode 1701. The wind and sand are raging, and the huge caravan is still marching in the Wild Ghost Desert. The yellow sand in the Wild Ghost Desert is quite eerie, but this caravan has a unique method to avoid being hurt by the yellow sand, so the journey is quite smooth. For a few days, the caravan was walking in the desert, and nothing strange happened. However, they didn't know that most of the Ghost Kingdom was hungry, plus the overlord of the demon world, and the Black Dragon Wolf also came to the West Temple. A real good show started slowly. It's strange, the materials escorted by this caravan are kept so tightly, it seems a little strange. Xiao Yan and Yu-Er each rode their horses, sitting in the middle of the team. Xiao Yan's eyes kept going back and forth on the materials stored on the backs of these spirit beasts, set in his heart. In the caravan, some spirit beasts are used to transport materials, but the so-called materials are tightly protected like rocks, and it is impossible to see what it is from the outside. Even with Xiao Yan's soul power, it is also I can't see the slightest bit, but looking at the spirit beast's laborious appearance, these materials must be of heavy weight. In addition to this, there was an extremely beautiful sedan chair in the caravan. The whole body of the sedan chair was completely wrapped in a circle of dark lines, blocking all investigations. Even Xiao Yan couldn't see anything wrong. However, Xiao Yan felt that there seemed to be no human figures on the sedan chair, and the aura contained in the sedan chair actually made Xiao Yan uneasy, as if there was something strange in it, but because of the strength of the caravan, Xiao Yan also did not act rashly. I'm afraid there is something wrong with what the caravan is escorting. Xiao Yan glanced at it from time to time, and conveyed his soul power to Yu-Er. These caravans are transporting supplies in the open, and I am afraid they are transporting something for the temple secretly. Yu-Er nodded lightly and agreed. It's almost time to enter the edge of the West Temple, be careful. The voice just fell, and the two were carefully concealing their breath. Sir, there is no storm ahead, and the route we took is correct. The scout in charge of exploring the route replied in the caravan. Yang Shu, you've worked so hard for you. This time, when you go back, I will remember your great deeds. The captain of the caravan said with a smile. Hey, Captain, the route pointed by the two adults is correct. I just went to check it. Without the help of the two adults, I'm afraid we would have wasted a lot of time. After all, the changing laws of the desert, only their internal personnel it's clear. Yang Shu said with a grin. If it wasn't for Xiao Yan and Yuer's guidance, I'm afraid they would have encountered a lot of trouble, but these things were all pointed by Yuer, which made Xiao Yan admire Yuer even more. Thank you too. Tomorrow, we can successfully reach the West Temple. The caravan captain laughed. Through these few days of getting along, Xiaoyan also knows that this caravan is called the Wind Snake Mercenary Team. The captain is Feng Qingyang, and its strength is in the middle stage of 6-star fighting immortals. It is specially responsible for the transportation of some materials in the 4 major temples. Can be regarded as a veteran. Every time, no matter how turbulent the desert storm is, he can always *** the supplies successfully. A day passed quietly. It's here, West Temple. The next day, the goods escorted by the caravan and Xiaoyan slowly looked into the distance. A huge building suspended above the desert lost their voice. This huge building, like a palace tower, has an awe-inspiring atmosphere as a whole. It is extremely huge. What is even more puzzling is that this building is actually suspended above the desert, which is a rather strange situation. Everyone, the forbidden area of the temple, please stop. When everyone entered the temple for several kilometers, some of the sand under their feet shook suddenly. After a while, guards wearing black armor appeared and said, "Xuan Guard, this is the supplies we sent to the temple, please check." Feng Qingyang greeted him with a smile. "Come here, count the supplies." Feng Qingyang glanced at each other, and immediately after Xuan Guard waved his hand, several shadows appeared and went directly to check the supplies. However, this kind of inspection is also quite strange, because these guys did not open the material as thick as a rock, but used a special force to erode it, and immediately nodded with satisfaction. As for the exquisite sedan chair, they didn't even look at it. He gestured to Xuan Guard. "After the inventory, go in, there are special guards waiting for you, and they will take you to the location where the supplies are placed." The recent troubled autumn has cheered me up. Xuan Guard finished speaking, his eyes slightly shifted. Xuan Guard and this caravan are already old acquaintances, and after a glance, it is naturally quite easy to distinguish something wrong. "Hey, why are there 2 people missing?" At this time, Feng Qingyang was slightly startled and asked in doubt. "Go in." Watching the crowd fluctuate so much, Xuan Guard waved his hand, and an incomparably huge sandstorm emerged, sweeping the caravan and supplies, and blasting away from the ground toward the huge palace. However, the figures of Xiaoyan and Yu Ura entered one of the materials on the back of the soul beast when they entered here. At this time, they were safely concealed in the materials, and followed Feng Qingyang and the others. The West Temple, which was suspended in the air, after all, if it did not do this, once Xuan Guard found out the truth of the matter, the consequences would be unimaginable. What are these things? At this moment, Xiaoyan and the 2 stood inside the material but lost their voices. Because the rock-like materials placed on the bodies of many soul beasts at this time is a rather empty small space, similar to a ring, with a size of hundreds of feet, and in this space, there are stored some crystal blocks of different shapes. These crystal blocks are filled with extremely dazzling suction, vaguely making Xiaoyan feel a sense of loss, and even the flames in his body emit a strange aura. These things. It seems that the Lord of Li Soul, Fu Li Shi, should have retreated here. Seeing this, Yu Ur got up and walked around, pinching his palm lightly on the crystal, and the terrifying suction force turned out to be the ghost energy in his body was absorbed and pulled a bit, but fortunately it was not a big problem. These things should be special crystals to isolate the power of the holy flame of flame. This crystal is called Swallowing Flame Crystal. As the name implies, its function is to swallow the flame, weaken the power of the flame, and temporarily store the power of the flame. And now the number of swallowing flame crystals is so large, I think this is probably prepared for the Master of the Soul. Yu Ur spoke slowly. "When you enter the temple, remember to follow me closely. I know you are very strong, but the strong people in the Western Temple can easily kill you, so I don't want you to make mistakes, otherwise we will." After a while, Yu Ur repeated he instructed Xiaoyan. "Okay." Xiaoyan nodded heavily. With his current strength and soul power, he clearly sensed that in the temple at this time, he could crush him to death at will, probably no less than 2 digits, so he was naturally very careful now. Continuing from the previous episode 1702, the 4 gods, the Lord of Li Soul, are in the West Temple. Palace Master, the situation is now clear. You should unite with the other 4 Palace Masters as soon as possible to wipe out the Devil of Light, otherwise once the Devil of Light and Soul Eater join forces, it will be devastating for us in Li Soul territory. Strike. At this time, 3 figures stood inside the temple. and one of the men frowned and said hurriedly. The core of the West Shrine, the Feng Shrine, is where Feng Hao lives. The whole body is silver, and countless thunders are looming. It is obviously a palace specially built for Feng Hao. In the center of the palace, there are only a few white jade stone pillars, and the rest is a throne standing tall. On the throne is the palace master of the West God Temple, and two men beside him appear here, and they all carry an incomparable power. This is a middle-aged man, with a ferocious face, quite scary, with strong muscles, silver lightning stripes on the muscles, which contain some kind of shocking, terrifying power, and behind his arms, a giant axe stands on top of the giant axe. A steady stream of thunder light emerges, and even on the thunder axe pattern, a rather ferocious and strange thunder beast is engraved on it. The thunder beast is extremely peculiar in shape, but it contains a very violent atmosphere. Feng Hao, the master of the West Temple, was in the middle stage of the 8-star fighting immortals. As for the two people around him, they are the two guards of the West Temple, and they are also Feng Hao's right and left hands, Leng Yi and Jimo. The strength of the two is at the perfect level of 7-star Do Xian, and they are Feng Hao's true right and left hand. No, this matter can't be rushed. Shaking his head casually, Feng Hao on the throne said helplessly. But Hallmaster, if we don't seize such a great opportunity, I'm afraid. Leng Yi on the side continued to speak. Do you know why the Demon of Light and Soul Eater didn't send the strongest to attack, but only used some shrimp soldiers and crab generals? Feng Hao asked back. Could it be? When Jimo heard the words, he seemed to realize something and lost his voice. That's right, they are afraid of the Lord of Souls. When they attacked the Demon Realm before, the Lord of Li Soul once joined forces with the Demon Realm and the Buddha Realm, so they may be afraid. After all, the Demon Realm and the Buddha and the Lord of Li Soul still have some friendship. Feng Hao said with a smile. I don't know where the Lord of Soul Li is now. He has not been seen for more than half a year, and even the command of the battle is in the hands of the Lord of the North Temple. After a while, Leng Yi continued to ask. Lord Li Soul should quietly retreat in a certain place at this time and break through. Once you break through and enter that realm, I'm afraid. Feng Hao envied. Okay, let's go down, now it's an eventful season, remember to cooperate with the North Temple in everything. Lazily sitting on the throne, he waved his hands. Yes. When the two heard the words, they also became quiet. Head of Li Hunwei, it's your turn to act. As the two guards left, Feng Hao called out to a certain place in the empty space. Shabu! With a sound, the void squirmed, and a man bathed in black ancient armor stepped out. Feng Hao, you have worked hard for you this time. When the master succeeds, your credit will be unprecedented. The head of Li Hunwei just appeared, and a gloomy voice emerged. Hua Xiao, the leader of Li Soul Guard, controls the most elite troops under Li Soul Guard, and his strength is on par with Feng Hao. On the black armor of Hua Xiao's body, countless strange black auras outline traces of ancient texts. The ancient texts seem to contain a trace of disturbing power, which makes people shudder. All the supplies have been delivered. This is the last time. Whether it is successful or not depends on the Lord of the Soul. However, this guy, the Lord of Li Soul, is also a hero, and he is willing to use the entire Li Soul domain as a bargaining chip. The attack of Soul Eater and the Devil of Light is not enough for Li Soul territory to resist. If the Lord of Li Soul fails to break through, we will fall into a state of doom. If it succeeds, it will naturally be a great joy for all. It's a big gamble. Feng Hao smiled. Who can say anything about that level? After all, the master has stayed at that level for too long. By the way, it seems that some flies have slipped inside the West Temple. The voice just fell, and the place is now calm. This is the core part of the temple, and on the other side, the situation of Xiao Yan and the others. What should I do now? Isn't it possible that the achievements have been hidden here? Xiao Yan and Yuer were still hidden in the rock-like materials, and said uneasy. Xiao Yan always felt that hidden in the materials, they were directly transported to the Master of the Soul to retreat. Certainly is extremely inconspicuous. Things that are too easy and simple are the most dangerous. The number of hidden powerhouses in the West Temple is far beyond Xiao Yan's expectations, and there are not a few 7-star fighting immortals, and even vaguely have some aura like a master. 8-star fighting immortal. Don't worry, I'm afraid this is the only way now. Yuer glanced around, but there was no good way. so he said helplessly. Don't worry, these materials are needed by the Lord of the Soul, and someone will definitely come to deliver them, but the only thing we can look forward to is that this guy is not too strong, otherwise the two of us will do this. It's just self-defeating, you are asked suspiciously? Hopefully, but I'm still waiting to die. Xiaoyan shook his head weakly, and immediately his body burned at a high speed, but strangely, he didn't smell any breath of acacia and broken heartitis, which made Xiaoyan quite strange. At this time, there is a rather quiet warehouse where many supplies are stored, and even the exquisite sedan chair is deeply immersed in it, and the deadly silence here makes people feel uneasy. Go out and have a look. After a while, Xiaoyan said, Are you crazy? There are some powerhouses in the West Temple outside. Once we are discovered by them, I'm afraid. Yu hesitated. My disguise is not enough to deceive some tyrannical 7-star fighting immortals, and 8-star fighting immortals can see through my disguise in no time, so it's a waste of time here, and we can't take this risk. Xiaoyan explained, So it is. Hearing the words, Yu felt relieved for a while. The disguise along the way was all cast by Xiaoyan. Even Yu admired this kind of disguise, because unless the strength was tyrannical, it was really impeccable. But now that Xiaoyan said this, Yu also nodded and said, They are weak in strength between the two, and if they are discovered by any 6-star fighting immortal, I am afraid it will be a mortal situation, not to mention 7-star or even 8-star. Also, I'm curious, what is inside that sedan chair? After a while, the two figures appeared in the warehouse at the same time. In the warehouse, there are some huge rocks and stones all around. Surprisingly, the temperature here is not low, and there is even a trace of warmth. Beyond that, there are rock-like irregular materials, and they are placed in beautiful sedan chairs in the material center. The sedan chair as a whole showed a strange red color. The whole body of the sedan chair was surrounded by countless black chi. Those black chi were like ancient texts from ancient times. Every time Xiaoyan looked at it, a trace of horror would emerge in his heart. It seems that this thing is not ordinary thing. At the same time, the Great Soul Venerable also sneaked into the West Temple with 1,000 soul disciples. Continuing from the previous episode 1703, I'm afraid this thing has an extraordinary origin. In the dark warehouse, Xiaoyan and Yu are kept walking around the exquisite sedan chair, and they searched together, but they found nothing. The dark ancient inscriptions around this beautiful sedan chair blocked all the exploration and perception of the two, and even made them feel a sense of unease from the bottom of their hearts. I'm afraid that there is something special inside the sedan chair. Do you have any clues? After wasting a lot of time, Xiaoyan asked Yu, still unable to solve the problem of the exquisite sedan chair. So far, he can only ask Yu, not for now. Even if it's the first time I've seen this thing in my life, I've never heard it from the master. Yu shook his head. I'm running out of time. I sensed a few tyrannical auras coming here. If I don't do it, I really don't have time. Xiaoyan said solemnly, but this thing is mysterious and unpredictable. We have nothing to do with it. Yu nodded in agreement, but unfortunately it didn't do anything. Stay back a little. Xiaoyan frowned, and immediately warned. What are you doing? This is the West God Temple. Looking at the gray flames emerging from Xiaoyan's body and the deep pupils, Yu couldn't help but lose his voice. Once such extreme power is completely diffused, I am afraid that this place will be destroyed in an instant. They were thoroughly excavated by the powerhouses of the Western Temple, and their situation at that time. Wang buzzing. For a time, the warehouse space here was filled with a touch of gray energy, and immediately covered all the space here. Domain? Seeing Xiaoyan's appearance, Yu just felt relieved. Otherwise, once Xiaoyan's holy flame aura emerged and was discovered by the powerhouses of the Western Temple, they would probably be seeking their own death. Immortal fire. Xiaoyan snorted coldly as he watched the domain come out, and the dazzling gray flames shot directly at the exquisite sedan chair. However, Xiaoyan is still not satisfied. Now he is considered a strong man with the origin of 3 holy flames. However, the 3 holy flames have not had time to fully integrate, otherwise the power of the new holy flames will be stronger than that of any holy flames today. Flames must be tyrannical, of course. New Yingying's holy flame must not be used. Zhu! The gray flames were like elves, completely violent in the undead flame domain, dancing. They just appeared, under the control of Xiaoyan. They went to the beautiful sedan chair, but found that, no matter what, those surrounded by the black ancient writing around the sedan chair is not at all threatened by the immortal fire. But no matter how the undead fire roared and vented its destructive power, the exquisite sedan chair remained indifferent, as if nothing had happened. It won't be so weird. After a few breaths, Xiao also gave up the undead fire and continued to burn, his eyes only staring at the exquisite sedan chair, hesitating. What is this thing that can actually isolate the burning of the undead fire? The undead fire is the 17th holy flame on the holy flame list. With that kind of power, there are very few things in the world that can isolate its power. This thing, I'm afraid it has something to do with the Lord of the Soul's swallowing of acacia and broken enteric inflammation. Seeing Xiao Yan's confusion, Yu tried to analyze. Swallowing flame crystals can isolate and absorb the power of flames, and this exquisite sedan chair is obviously more precious than those swallowing flame crystals. What is this? Xiao Yan kept thinking. Wait, someone is coming. Suddenly, watching Xiao Yan in the deep undead flame realm thinking seriously, Yu's figure trembled, pulling Xiao Yan up directly, then the realm was retracted, and Zaidu hid back to the rock among the materials. Su. The two figures just disappeared, and suddenly a dark shadow poured in silently from the entrance of the warehouse. Strange, why is there a smell of flame? The visitor had just sneaked in here, and immediately smelled a rather tyrannical flame aura in the air, and immediately said, "The visitor is the great soul venerable of the Ghost Kingdom. The soul destroys the sky, and the strength is about that of the 7-star fighting immortals." No one knows the specific strength, and because the ghosts and souls are particularly sensitive to flames, they were smelled for a while. The flame power, it was just that Xiao Yan released the power that could not catch fire. Forget it, let's do business. Looking at the dazzling array of supplies in front of him, Soul Mietian shook his head. Swallowing the flame crystal, it seems that the Master of the Soul has really found a way for the soul body to swallow the holy flame, rustling. After a random inspection, a trace of gloomy laughter emerged from under the black robe of Soul Mietian. But it did not hesitate too much, walking directly towards the beautiful sedan chair in the center. Wait, this is... After a while, when Soul Mietian saw the beautiful sedan chair standing quietly in the center of the warehouse, he lost his voice. Forbidden cage? A surprised voice emerged from under the black robe, and Xiao Yan immediately sensed a trace of scorching heat from under the black robe. Taboo cage? Xiao Yan, who was hiding inside the material, shook his head slightly when he heard the words. He was obviously familiar with these words, but for a while he didn't know what it was. How could it be? It's actually a taboo cage? When Yu next to Xiao Yan heard the words, his body suddenly shook and he lost his voice. What the asterisk is this? Xiao Yan tried to ask. The taboo cage, this is the 10th ranked immortal artifact on the list of immortal artifacts in the Great Thousand Worlds. Yu's chest heaved violently, and he spoke immediately. The taboo cage can isolate all power and temporarily seal certain things, thereby retaining its purest spirituality. This includes life forms. In other words, humans. Yu said in shock. This is interesting. What the asterisk does the Lord of Li's soul want to do? Xiao Yan's eyes became hot, and a trace of undetectable things spread out from his forehead, and even the many treasures of the Emperor Flame Ring in his body were faintly emitted. A strange force emerges. It's like mutual attraction and mutual resistance, mysterious and unpredictable. The Lord of Li's soul collected the taboo cage. I am afraid it is also to devour acacia broken enteric inflammation. Now it seems that this guy has not taken that step. Fortunately, before I came out, I got some things from Lord Sanhunwei that were specially used to deal with the Lord of Li's soul. Susu. Shin's gloomy voice emerged from under the black robe. Oh, it seems as the adults said, some small flies slipped in. Just when Soul Mietian wanted to make a move, this warehouse was completely covered by a scarlet energy ripple. Susu, it's really a bunch of trash. It didn't stop you for a long time. The power of the West Temple is indeed well deserved. Seeing this, Hun Mietian still pretended to be calm in the dark, and said with a dangerous smile. However, he knew that this guy was the leader of the powerful guards in charge of patrolling in the West Temple. The late-stage strength of the 7-star fighting immortals, G-Mo. The real good show unfolds slowly. Continuing from the previous episode 1704. The Ghost Kingdom belongs to the powers of the kingdom. The Great Soul respects the soul and destroys the sky. and has long admired the name. Jimo waved his hand and directly covered the place. The scarlet energy slowly formed a field, which made people shudder. Head of the bodyguard of the West Temple, Jimo, it seems that those soul disciples are too useless. In Jimo's field, a trace of tyrannical pressure swept over, and Sol Mietian sneered. Jimo is the head guard of the West Temple. No matter his strength or the powerhouse he can mobilize, he is far from being able to deal with him now. However, Jimo has forgotten that he is only the late-stage strength of 7-star fighting immortals, while Soul Destruction Heaven is not. It is the perfection level of 7-star Do Xian. In addition to some treasures obtained from Lord Sanhunwei, the overall strength of today's Sol Mietian is truly comparable to the powerhouses in the early stage of 8-star Do Xian. This is why Sol Mietian is so fearless. Your ghost kingdom has illicitly cheated on human beings without authorization, established the power of the Soul Temple, and carried out some dirty things in the human world and the ghost world. These kind of bugs that people and gods are angry with, but everyone gets it and kills them. Questioned. Sir Jimo really knows enough. But you, Li Hunyu, and we are also half a caddy. So let's fight. Han Mietian knew that if he didn't deal with this guy, he would definitely block his plan. And for the matter of the Lord of Soul Li, they have planned for a long time in the Ghost Kingdom. For this reason, Sol Mietian has also issued a military order with the Lord of the Hall of Soul Hall. Once the Holy Flame fails, maybe the Lord of Li Soul has successfully broken through and entered the reincarnation. Then the fate of the soul destroying the sky is undoubtedly extremely miserable. Boom! With a sound, circles of energy like dark shackles suddenly burst out from the black robe of soul destruction sky, filling Jimo's domain with an extreme gloomy aura. Poison attribute? After a while, seeing Jimo's unmoved appearance, Sol Mietian couldn't help muttering. Poison attribute. This attribute is quite rare, but the stronger the strength, the more tyrannical the combat power will be. That's right, but the reward is to send you to hell. Without thinking about the strange ghost energy in Sol Mietian, Jimo suddenly urged his poison domain and launched an extremely tyrannical attack on Sol Mietian. Crash! With a sound, the dazzling energy spewed out like a wave, and immediately vented this field into a very dangerous ocean. These two guys, if they fought so hard, aren't they afraid of attracting the powerhouses of the Western Temple? Feeling the violent fluctuations in the battle between the two, Yu couldn't help but said, "The Soul Palace is actually controlled by the power of the Ghost Kingdom and the human world. In that case, the Soul Clan is the native race, and this so-called Soul Palace is not a dictatorship of the Soul Clan. There should be some secrets between the two of them." Xiao Yan nodded. "What should we do now?" After a while, Yu asked Xiao Yan. "Chi-Chi's novels are first published on the whole network. There is no way. The current fluctuation of the battle between the two 7-star fighting immortals is too tyrannical. Even with the isolation of the realm, it is still disturbing, so Yu asked. "I can't stay here anymore. I always feel that Sol Mietian came prepared. We might as well be like this." Xiao Yan whispered beside Yu. "Is that so? If we are discovered, our fate will probably be even more dangerous." After hearing Xiao Yan's words, Yu couldn't help but frown. Although Xiao Yan's plan was feasible, it was dangerous. The coefficient is too high. We must give it a try, otherwise the two of us will not be able to successfully reach the retreat of the Lord of Souls, so it is also an opportunity not to be missed. If it fails, it is a big deal to find another opportunity. Xiao Yan nodded solemnly. "Okay." Hearing the words, Yu nodded lightly. The two quietly retreated from the supplies, and with the help of Xiao Yan's disguise, they walked around the temple. As for the forbidden cage and those swallowing flame crystals, they still fell into the hands of Hua Xiao, the head of the Li Soul Guard, and he personally sent them to the retreat of the Li Soul Lord. It's just strange that since then, Jimo has it was as if it had disappeared, and it had never appeared. Instead, some soldiers patrolling in the West Temple were quite unfamiliar, but the people in the West Temple did not notice it. The West Temple is suspended above the desert, and it is filled with a special energy to shield the damage of wind and sand in the dry temperature. As for its interior, it extends in all directions, and countless lines are intricately intertwined. This kind of complicated line, even Feng Hao himself may not be able to figure it out. There are so many routes here, how should we go? Xiao Yan and the two were still disguised as two guards in charge of patrolling, but every time they encountered some forks, they would be in trouble, because each route leads to places are not the same. If you choose the wrong one, it will be extremely time-consuming. Quote. Hearing this, Yu also rolled her eyes, and immediately took out a piece of parchment, and her beautiful eyes kept comparing back and forth between the parchment scroll and the dim passage in front of her. Xiao Yan didn't want to look at the parchment, but he casually glanced at it. He didn't know if he didn't see it. When he saw it, he was startled, and Xiao Yan couldn't help cursing. The fastest update of Chi-Chi novel, the parchment scroll in Yuer's hand now records the most detailed construction diagram of the West Temple as a whole. With it, it is easy to enter the core of the temple. On this detailed map, it has clearly identified where there is danger and where it is safe. It is completely different from the map given to Xiao Yan because of the agreement. The map in Xiao Yan's hand recorded the locations of the 4 major temples in the Wild Ghost Desert. Calm can be said to be extremely rough, but now the map in Yuer's hand actually records the most detailed distribution of the West Temple, which made Xiao Yan feel like he was being tricked. This map was given to me by the teacher after I went back, so I didn't lie to you before. Seeing the change in Xiao Yan's face, Yuer explained. Now, how should I go? Xiao Yan asked calmly, not bothering with this girl for the time being. There are too many powerhouses in the West Temple. Although he is in his heyday now, he should omit unnecessary troubles as much as possible, because at the end he has to face the Lord of Souls. At that time, the real deathmatch. In advance, this is the construction and distribution map of the West Temple at the beginning, but now that 1,000 years have passed, I can't guarantee it is correct, but when I first entered, I glanced around, and it seemed to be the same as the map in my hand. It fits perfectly. Yuer said to Xiao Yan. We are here now. After Yuer finished speaking, he pointed his finger lightly at an area on the edge of the map, and said. Xiao Yan heard the words and looked up, but found that this was a rather huge building, and the countless dense markings in the building made people dazzled. On the map, countless black dots appeared, and these black dots seemed to represent some special meanings, and even the existence of some lines are only on the map. The most striking ones are only the 3 red marks in the building. There are only 2 places in the entire shrine where Lord Li Hun may retreat. In the next moment, before Xiao Yan could react, Yuer pointed to the 2 red-marked areas on the edge of the building on the map at the same time. When Xiao Yan stared at the red mark on the map, he was suddenly lost for a while. Opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis.